So the Kaiden Sellswords are mercenaries who are located throughout the lands between. They wear the Kaiden set and wield the long, sweeping dismounter on horseback or on foot. But is their vanilla build good against players and bosses in the lands between, or do we need to make some improvements to take this build to the next level? I'm Bitesized Otaku, and in this video, we'll be taking the build out for a spin and seeing just how good the Kaiden Sellsword actually is. But like the video and give it to me bite-sized. So as stated earlier, the Kaiden Sellswords wear the Kaiden set, which will give us okay defense which suffers greatly against lightning for some reason, and 39 poise, which won't be too helpful. It's also worth noting that all of the equipment can be farmed off the Kaiden Sellswords in Limgrave near the Warmaster's shack, or just any Sellsword enemy you come across. For our dismounter, they use the skill Warcry, which will boost our physical damage by 7.5% and our strength scaling by +5, as well as altering our strong attack animations. I've opted for the Keen Infusion, as this weapon does quite well with Dexterity. As we're not using any talismans or spells for this vanilla version of the build, I'll skip over to the stats, which invest heavily in Dexterity so we can maximise our damage on the level 137 Vagabond. But with such a simple build, you might be asking, does it play well? And the answer to that question is yes and no, but mostly yes. This weapon has fantastic reach on a sweeping and overhead moveset, which will allow you to catch opponents that would often just be outside of your reach. The swings have good speed, and it's not uncommon to stagger someone repeatedly before they can retaliate. With Warcry, I found the modified heavy attacks to be too slow and predictable, but if used at the right time, it can trade attacks with enemies for great damage, which is hampered by our lackluster defense, meaning we will likely take more damage than we dish out. In PvE, this heavy attack is brilliant for staggering bosses and enemies while dishing out great damage, and the larger the foe, the easier it is to punish their clunkiness. Despite this, the bonus damage and strength scaling is a nice addition, but as we're benefiting from Dexterity scaling, it's not the best weapon art for us to use. And of course, we do have some issues. Besides the weapon art being a tad too slow, this isn't helped by our lackluster poise, which often means we'll get staggered out of our attacks if we don't land the first strike. We could also benefit from a ranged option, as we're highly dependent on chasing our enemies around to land a strike, which puts us at a major disadvantage against enemies with varied equipment. And I think we could very easily swap out some of these armor pieces for something a bit better without destroying the overall Kaiden aesthetic. So let's make some improvements. Let's keep the helmet and chest piece, but swap out the rest for the Crucible gauntlets and blade greaves, which would give us higher defense and slightly better poise. Then let's swap out our weapon art Warcry for Stormblade, which will give us a high damaging ranged attack, which suits the theme of our build and weapon perfectly. For our talismans, let's use the Shard of Alexander, Erdtree Favor +2, Millicent's Prophesis, and the Bull Ghost Talisman. And lastly, let's keep our stats the same on the level 137 Vagabond, and while we've made some minor adjustments, we're getting far better results with a ranged attack that complements this weapon nicely. If the enemy is close, then strike with swings and running strikes that have great roll catch potential, and if they are far, use Stormblade to punish casters, or deal massive damage up close if both strikes land. In addition, because our weapon is keen, you could use a variety of resins like lightning grease to really amp up the power while sticking to the build's theme. And this new skill will deal massive damage on bosses at close range, compensating for a lack of defense and medium rolling speed, while being obtainable early in the game with a bit of farming and patience in the starting area. And that's really all there is to this build. A great sword with fantastic reach and a brilliant moveset that can catch people for damage at deceptively long range, with a ranged option thrown in to spice things up. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and of course subscribe. This is Bitesized Otaku, and I hope you enjoyed.